Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
I'm Anne from the Morning Breeze in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia.
I'm Deb from the Morning Breeze in Halifax.
And I'm Simone from Breeze Afternoons in Vancouver and Edmonton.
Our latest book is Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty by Lauren Weisberger, the New York Times bestselling author of The Devil Wears Prada and When Life Gives You Lululemons, brings us a read this time around about two sisters, their perfect lives and their perfect lies. The novel follows Peyton Marcus, a popular morning news anchor who seems to have it all. Perfect job, perfect husband, and a daughter who has just graduated from an exclusive private school on her way to Princeton University. But when Peyton and her family are thrust into the spotlight after her husband is arrested for being involved in a scandal, she joins her sister Sky as stay-at-home mom in the suburban town of Paradise. But Sky is also struggling with her own private pain. Juicy stuff, ladies. Let's dive right in. Thoughts on this month's read? Deb, I'll start with you. I know you just finished this book.
I did, and I wish I had gotten into it even sooner. It was great. I was excited because of the author and what she's already thrown out there, plus the scandal that we've been all aware of for, I guess, a couple of years now, maybe longer. But I quite liked it, and I really did like the characters. And I think there were a lot of emotions that I think most people would be able to follow along. Maybe there were times where some of the characters, you step back and think, what the heck? Really? But no, I quite enjoyed it.
What about you, Simone?
Oh my gosh, me too. I loved it. And I know Deb and I are the ones that are always reading to like the day before we have our discussion. But same thing. I was like, why didn't I get to it sooner or finish sooner? It was really juicy, as you mentioned. And I'm obsessed with all things like Real Housewives, all the franchise shows. So this had a little taste of that little lifestyle with all this, designer and luxury and name brand stuff. And of course, the deep, dark secrets were really good because there just seemed to be more every time. And you're like, oh, I thought it was just one secret, but clearly it's snowballing to many of them.
Yeah. And I know we're talking about this in the fall, but I did enjoy this book in the summer. It was a great summer read on my camping trips, and I couldn't put it down. So let's get right to it. The first question I think that I want to dive into is just about the song, which is the title for the novel, Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty, which every time I say it, I want to sing it instead of say it. But why do you think Lauren chose this song for the title, and how did it relate to what happened in the story? Simone, what do you think?
Well, it's an obvious play on the grass isn't always greener, and obviously being set in the town of Paradise. It is that whole world, and we see so much of it where you see things on social media or you see things around you where you think people are living these amazing lives, and sometimes you look back at yourself and you think, oh, I wish I had what she had, or I wish I was this far along in my career, or I wish I had, that family or that kind of husband or something. But really, once you read along, it just makes you realize, hey, you know what? Things aren't always so great. And you hear that term where the grass isn't always greener. It's your grass is green where you water it, right? Or where you take care of it. So I think in the end, that realization of just making sure you're not missing out on what's important, the moment in life, while trying to just keep up with the Joneses, because at the end of the day, that might not bring you happiness.
That is a deep dive, Simone. Wow. Yeah. Very impressed right now.
100%.
Deb, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with Simone. It's those lifestyles that may, I guess probably for most people, seem so unattainable. But yes, let's go for it. Let's do whatever we need to do to get there. And, having to set the standards because of a certain lifestyle and follow along in that imaginary handbook of life. Let's get the cookie cutter house and the family. And in this particular area, this suburb or this city, this location. And as you mentioned, Simone, keeping up with the Joneses, that idea idea of perfection that really doesn't exist, but you still want to believe that it does, or a lot of people would like to believe it. So I think that image is out there in the shows that we see, in the scandals on the front pages, or, you know, on our entertainment shows. But yeah, I think because there's so much of it on social media these days, that there are a lot of people dreaming about it or trying to jump in and see, can I try this out, and maybe it might work out. Maybe it is greener over there, but I guess I have to test the waters first.
Yeah. And I also would add to that nostalgia around the memories of going to concerts. Like, in the book, I think one of the main themes of the book is sisters. These two sisters, and you know, what they're going through together. And there's parts where they're reminiscing about their teenage years and when they went to these concerts and stuff like that. So I don't know. I sort of thought that played into it a bit as well. And anyway, it's going to be my earworm for the day, where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Yeah, Guns N' Roses do a much better version. All right, so a 3-part question next. What was your opinion on Peyton's reasoning for trying to buy a Princeton admission for her daughter, Max? Why did her husband, Isaac, have to take the fall for what happened? And what would you have done in her shoes? So I know a lot to unpack there, but Simone, I know you're up to the task here on this one. So what do you think about those questions?
Well, that's just it. It's the whole prestige, and she was a, news anchor. People loved her. She had everything going on. She wanted to have the perfect career, the perfect life, the perfect body, and took really good care of herself. And then it was all of her friends, keeping up with them and making sure her daughter goes to an Ivy League school. It's just a checklist on that box of what is considered to be perfection. So I think that's where her headspace was, is that my daughter deserves the best of the best. I didn't get it, so I am going to do whatever I can now that I am a person in power to be able to do this. And at the end of the day, I don't think she was coming from that place of committing a crime. I think she just thought, it's like anything. Your kids are having some event at school, and if you can, put out $100 gift certificate, it goes a long way, right? With people thinking, oh, wow, that mom is incredible. She did something. So here this mom is thinking, I'm just going to give a little charity donation so they're aware of her, and they just know that our family is a well-to-do family. We bring a lot to the table, but not so much as some of the college scandals that we've seen come to surface, where people were actually having fake people take tests and, fake people in photos at those campuses. So I think she just really thought, you know what, I'm going to do this for my daughter because it'll be the life that I didn't have, she can have. And that's just it. I think her husband took the fall because she is such a public personality. She is so well loved. He could go away, do the time, and he thought it won't taint her reputation. And I probably would have done the same thing. I think if I was in that situation, if my husband said, hey, listen, in your world, this is really going to ruin things for you and your future. So if I can help you, let me help you. But I think at the end of the day, fessing up to what you do is important, because then you're admitting to it. And who haven't we seen bounce back from scandal? Like, just thinking about this, I think about the actual college admission scandal, and Lori Loughlin and her daughter, Olivia Jade, is on Dancing with the Stars. You look at someone like, Martha Stewart, who did jail time, and she was just on the Today Show talking about her new dessert cookbook. So I think the people who fess up to it, own up to it, and say, listen, I did a bad thing, but I'm ready to make it right. I think that's just it. So fessing up to it at the end of the day was the right step.
I think, I like looking at it from that angle, Simone, and thinking about all those celebrities who have done wrong. I mean, we are all human, right? We all make mistakes, and we want to do what's best, or what we think might be best for our family and our friends as well, if you want to extend that circle. And I think initially people, they don't love it, but sometimes they like to see celebrities or people in power fail, or see that there's the human, there's the person that I think I know. And then when you realize, okay, they've paid their price, they've done what they had to do to get back on track. So now let's embrace them as we would with our family members. But yeah, I think she was just so desperate to do anything for Max, and perhaps also obsessed with her own dreams. She just couldn't help herself. This is, she wasn't thinking that, okay, what's going to happen down the line? Somebody's going to get in trouble. We're breaking laws here. I think that's what you want to do without thinking of the ramifications. You're just so anxious to get in there and do it and hopefully come out on the better end, I suppose. But I'm not sure. And maybe because I'm not a mother, I'm not a parent, that I go that far. I would take a risk, but I don't know I take that big of a risk.
Yeah, I don't think she thought she was doing anything illegal. So that was the first thing. But myself, the queen of saying sorry, I as I was reading through this, I thought to myself, I could never do this. I could not have my husband take the fall for it. I just couldn't. It would stress me out to no end. So if I was in her shoes, I would have fessed up to it right away for sure. I know me, and I couldn't relate to that part of it. Although I could see with where she was at, and she was such a public figure and this and that. My own personal take on is like, I could have never handled it. It wouldn't have been a good scene for sure. So, but how do you think Max handled the scandal? Because I think she handled it better than I would have. But Simone, what do you think about Max in the story?
Well, I think like any teenager, she was angry at first because, again, it was brought to this national attention, that her parents were involved in this. Her dad's going to jail. Her mom's, taken off her TV show. And so she was just worried about what other people would think about her and her friends and people talking behind your back. So you have anger from that because it's like, hey, I do so much in my life to fit in or just get to a certain place in my life. And now here are my parents damaging any chances I have at my future. But seeing her come around, it just showed that she did believe her parents are good people. She obviously had a very close relationship with her dad, so that was hard for her. Her mom and I, not so close, but seeing that they're going to work on it, and she was able to just get things off her chest. And her mom not realizing that, wow, like I have been putting my life and my world ahead of my daughter, and I thought I was doing something great for her, but I really wasn't. So I think she handled it better than, like you said, Anne, better than I think I would have handled it. So I think deep down she knew that they had a reason to do it. She didn't agree with it, but at least they got there in the end.
I think so too. I think as well, she handled it as well as can be expected, and maybe even better than most other teens, of course, but also adults. And I think Max is such a bright, really cool kid. I can't imagine handling it the way she did. And I think, being an only child, I just think of having my siblings and being able to throw things at them or discuss, things that are going on in the family, and to be alone and not feel like you've got that other person that you can kind of say, hey, what's going on? What do we do? How do we go from here? I think that she's done very well with it.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think about like social media and what that feeling would be when you would have to go through something like that. All I can think about is, thank goodness when we were growing up we didn't have Facebook. That's all I can.
I think about that all the time because it's like none of our stuff from the past. We've all done things that it surfaces, and the teens these days, I mean, it's as quick as somebody filming you and it's on Snapchat and it's gone viral and it's everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Facebook isn't cool. It's all, what is it? It's all about, it's like Snapchat and
TikTok.
What else is there? TikTok. Yeah. Yes, TikTok. But, and then Max uses social media to her advantage as well when she does her videos and shares them. And so she does, in the end, it does work out for her. And on to Sky, though. What are your thoughts about Sky's storyline? And what was behind her buying spree and going into debt? That was sort of interesting. Deb, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, sure. We were talking, or you had mentioned the sisterhood or the relationship in the story with Sky and Peyton. And I have two sisters myself. So I love her spirit and I love the differences between her and Peyton. I think she was a very interesting character. And I think of her and my older sister and my younger sister as well. We are all very different, but have a lot of similarities and interesting times in our lives. We always come together in the end. We have each other's back. But there were a few moments where I thought, wow, would I even be friends with you if I didn't have to be, I know we're siblings, but would I be your friend if I was outside this circle? But yeah, I really do like Skye's character. And I think she has such great passion for the families that, she wanted to help and such a good heart. And I don't know how similar she is, when you compare Peyton's character, but coming together as sisters, I love that relationship.
And Simone, what do you think?
I liked her storyline as well. And I think, she had it all together. She went to the great school and, had this life in the suburbs, but there was obviously a void in her that she was filling by buying things and doing things. And she just didn't know what her place in life was because she pictured her life going a certain way. But as we know, your life can change course and direction at any time. And you kind of have to just understand that this is what is meant for you. And you can only fight so much. And so I was really happy to see that in the end, she was going to, adopt another baby. And I just thought maybe she, in her mind, since she had her life planned a certain way and it kind of detoured and she had to be the pack mom or do stuff at school. But I think in the end, this is what her life was meant to be. And she's finding that passion in just that world of being a mom with kids. Like I know a lot of friends who were extremely career driven and had all these goals. Even myself, I think about some of the things I wanted to do. And it's not that you give it up to have children, but you're just in a different place and you think this is not forever. When you have children, they're only small for so long. They're your whole world. And I see it with my oldest. He's already kind of like, Mom, can I go with my friends? Can I go do something else? So you don't have a lot of time with them before they kind of get back into their own worlds. And then you're free again to kind of focus on some of the things you couldn't do at a certain point that maybe you thought, oh, at this age, I will be here in my life. Well, you might get there a little later if it's still a passion, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. Just find that happiness in your life. Find that passion over that perfection,
Yeah,
Although
sometimes I guess it's hard to find the balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt it was a bit open-ended too because it never really... She never had the conversation with her husband about it. Like it never sort of bookend. There was no bookend to it as far as... her coming clean about her spending and her massive credit card debt and all the rest of it. I was just wondering if we had the chance to talk to Lauren, I wanted to ask her about that, what she had in mind for how that played out in the end, because it was never really addressed. It was something that she kind of went through with the book, and then at the end it was sort of like everything is okay now, and hopefully the debt gets sorted out. But it just kind of was left hanging for us to sort of wonder what happened. And did she ever say anything? My goodness, that's another thing. I'm like, oh my, I couldn't keep that in.
But do you think that maybe there could be a sequel for this? Because even the last page, and it was like, well, what happens? Yeah. Does she go back? Does she bounce back after Scandal? Like, what happens? Like, so I think that's maybe why it was left like that, because I could see another book in this series. Yes. And what happens with Max? Where does she end up?
Yeah, and you know what?
The new baby.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview as well with Lauren, and she said that she is working on something that is out the next couple of years. So, and she wouldn't say what it was. So maybe that's it. We'll have to keep an eye on that for sure, because I'm nosy and I need to know what happened there.
You've invested in these people.
Yes. A bit of a spoiler alert right now. We're going to unpack the ending. So if you haven't had a chance to get to the end, you may want to check back on this final bit of the discussion at a later date, okay? So here it is, the final question. Why do you think Peyton finally decided to turn herself in? And further that, what do you foresee the lasting repercussions for doing so? So Simone, how will Peyton's, career be affected and all of that with her going to jail?
I think she's gonna, right her wrong, obviously, and she was about to do that, as we found right at the end of the book. And I think she's doing it because she wants that relationship with her husband to be strong and to show her daughter that if you do make mistakes, you can't let anyone else take the blame. So here I am doing the responsible thing, and I think it'll be a big story on her network. And I think people will, because she is such a likable person, as you read along wherever she went, people loved her. And I think she'll get back to doing what she loves, and it'll be a learning lesson for her. And people will say, you know what, like I said, the Martha Stewarts of the world and stuff, they did their time. So now we can appreciate them, because there's also so many people or celebrities who do things and they just get off like with no punishment at all. So I think those are the people that the rest of us get frustrated at, is, just because they're a well-known name, they don't have to do anything or face any repercussions. But I think in her case, I think it'll work out better for her. And I think it'll kind of be the reset she needs to reevaluate her life and understand that I have to kind of change my ways. And maybe it's not going back to the role she had. Maybe she'll find something else to do in that kind of world. But I think she'll bounce back. That's how I feel about it. I don't think this is the end for her.
I agree. Deb, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think she had to turn herself in. And I think that she finally realized with one of the last conversations she had with Max, like the night before, and she realized who her daughter really was and how she could do so much more than she gave her credit for, and that, she could handle life and what was coming with her new plans after high school. And along with Isaac, her husband, whatever that sentence might be, I think that she realized, you know what, this is going to be okay. There will be a media overload for a time and probably more anger from the public and her colleagues, but she will be able to live with herself and better understand the world that she wanted to be part of versus the world that she thought she needed to be part of. So I think there's definitely more to come for all of us.
Yes, well, we're predicting it now that there is going to be a sequel to this book.
And there should be a movie, because she made The Devil Wears Prada. Like, I could totally see this as a movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Where's Meryl Streep? Let's get her on the phone.
Meryl Streep could play the mom. The mom was like,
yes,
really?
I love it.
I
love it. That would be perfect. Yeah. No, it was a great read, and I was happy. I must say, I felt relieved at the end. I'm like, oh, good. Because that was stressing me out that she was letting your husband take the fall. I was like, I just don't get it. I could never do it. It was baffling to me. So, but it was interesting to see how their journeys all sort of happened and how it all came together at the end, but kind of still left it open-ended to who knows. We'll see. And anything you want to add about this month's read?
It's just interesting to me now, because it's seeing the people with their perfect lives is going to make me think, ooh, what deep, dark secret do they have? Not saying that everybody does, but it's just, sometimes you start to think about how many people you meet in life who are really holding on to some stuff that you know nothing about. That's probably juicy, because my life is quite boring. So that's why.
Oh my gosh. So true. Me too. And I think, wow, it's so exhausting to be some of these people, isn't it? Trying to keep up with everything and have that perfect setting, that perfect life. I mean, it's no wonder there's anxiety and all these interesting things coming out.
Exactly. Thank you both, Anne and Deb, and thank you to you for listening.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.